Um, First of all, I'm from Fusion. I'm the immigration editor there, and as Mark mentioned, we're a joint venture of ABC News and Univision. And right now, we're only in the digital realm, but we'll be launching a broadcast network by the end of the year that'll be a 24-hour cable channel. One of the issues, as Mark was mentioning to me earlier today, that we really focus on is immigration. So I'm glad to be able to be here and represent where we come from and how we cover the issue. Just to get back to the New York Times, because I think that's really kind of what we're here to focus on today. I found it interesting to read Jerry's pieces about how the Times coverage has changed. And I actually spent some time over the weekend just going back through old Times editorials on immigration from the early 80s up until around 1987 or so, after the Immigration Reform Act had passed. And I think what I found was actually something that looked very similar to the way they're talking about immigration today. Um, I do believe that there were probably some editorials that were outliers and different in tone that were picked up for Jerry's piece. But in general, I saw them talking about the same issues about enforcing the border, about humane treatment for immigrants, and finding ways for people who are here without papers to get legal. I saw talk about making it harder for people who are here without papers to get jobs. So to me, I didn't see a huge tonal difference in the editorial page. Then again, I'll be honest, I don't read it every day. But just from what was cited in the article and what I'm familiar with. What I will say is that I do believe the center has shifted on the issue. And that doesn't just go for the New York Times, but for media in general. And it's something actually I wrote about this morning. If you think back to the 2000s, turn on the Lou Dobbs show, any night of the week, and you're pretty likely to see B-roll of people jumping over the border, or hear Lou Dobbs talk about immigrants bringing disease to the U.S. I don't know if you all remember that in 2007, I believe, there was it kind of went viral, as you might say, that Lou Dobbs had said immigrants were bringing leprosy, and then 60 Minutes ended up fact-checking him, and the claims ended up being pretty baseless. And actually, the New York Times did a follow-up as well, showing that they interviewed Dobbs and spoke with him, and he more or less outright said no, they had misstated the number of people who were coming into the U.S. with leprosy, and that it was actually nowhere near what they had said on the news program. So I think when you think about, and of course Lou Dobbs is still around, and perhaps some of you still watch him, but I think the size of his stage, without a doubt, has shrunken. And I think, especially when you look generationally, young people, people age 40 and under, are not going to be watching a Lou Dobbs type show in the future. They're going to want immigration coverage that has a more thoughtful view and that includes immigrants as people who are part of this debate. And I think that that's something you didn't get for many years. And I think, to be honest, I think partly what Jerry's seeing in this shift in tone is that there is more of an acknowledgement in the media that they've been talking about immigrants as lawbreakers and as people jumping fences, and that isn't the way the dialogue should have been, and that's not the way it's going to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I know one of the things I heard somebody say the other day in our talks about the network Fusion was that they need a new word for minority, that there's kind of a pejorative sense to the word minority, and I don't know whether that's true or not, but somebody was just saying that. And then I heard somebody just jokingly say, well, how about majority? And I think that's something that you actually see reflected in this shift in tone, is more of an acknowledgement that this isn't about a sort of 1950s version of America that we're trying to preserve, that it's an ongoing dialogue where we're talking about people who are here, some of them with papers, some without papers, and about how we find a solution that's humane and that's not just about trying to spend money on bigger fences and funds the companies that build those fences. And I think it's personally, I think it's a good thing that we're moving in that direction. And I guess in that sense, I do agree that the tone has shifted. I don't think it's just the Times. I think it's media in general, and I don't think it's a bad thing.